Hello, and welcome back to Zen and Fanfics. Today we're starting part 7 of an exciting new series. What if Quirkless Deku reincarnated in Pokemon World? If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe for more content. The story we're featuring is written by Dragon Boy on archiveofourown.org. You can find all the relevant links in the description, so be sure to check out the author's profile and say hello. Now, let's dive into the story. Izuku never thought he'd be here so soon. But here he was outside of a therapist's office door. Steven had sent him the location of the best therapist near him, and it was his luck that the best therapist in Hoenn was in Mauville City. He took a deep breath and knocked on the door. "Come in." Izuku opened the door and saw a woman with a striking similarity to Aunt Mitsuki. I have an appointment under Stone." "Oh, you must be the one referred by Mr. Steven Stone." The woman gestured to the door. "It's still early, but you may head in now." "Thank you." Izuku bowed before heading into the room. Now that he thought about it, he didn't even know the name of the therapist since Steven just told him she was the best in her field. "It's nice to meet you." Izuku heard a strangely familiar voice. "It's an I-dash." Izuku's words were caught in his throat the moment he saw the therapist. The woman was a spitting image of his mother, though the woman in front of him was a bit slimmer and younger than his mother. "My name is Inko. We can start now if you want," she stated. Hearing her name made it even more painful for Izuku. "Why, yes." Izuku took a seat on one of the couches. "How would you like to proceed?" Inko asked. Sorry. This is my first time, so I don't know how things go." "Then is it alright if I ask a few questions first?" Izuku nodded. "Are you aware that you have a problem?" Izuku nodded again. "Yes, but I'm not entirely sure about what the problem is exactly." She nodded in understanding. "It says on your medical record that you're a war veteran. At that age?" "I got drafted at 16, Izuku said. "It was basically a civil war in my region." "Any nightmares?" "Sometimes, but it's not to the point that it affects my daily life," Izuku answered. "It helps that I'm aware that I'm far away from everything. An entire universe away, but do you believe it still haunts you?" "I'm not sure." Izuku looked down. "When I arrived at this region, I felt like I was free. The things I had to endure wasn't here. From what you're telling me, it seems that you see your past as a shackle instead of an experience," she mentioned. "It's also mentioned in the statement you gave us that you think you're using NTRCRS as a coping mechanism. Is that right?" "Why, yes." Izuku rubbed his cheek in embarrassment. "Although it's not common, this is a likely reaction for people that were touch-starved suddenly being showered with affection," she explained. "Considering your situation and the condition of this region, I can understand how this situation came to be. Do you feel guilty for not being able to refuse their advances?" "Why, yes." Izuku really felt like he was getting the talk from his mother. "There's no harm in that considering the nature of your relationship you mentioned in your statement. And you're all adults." Thank you. "Shall we discuss your biggest concern now?" Izuku nodded. "Have you made contact with your Lucario after the last incident?" Izuku shook his head. He's been staying at the Pokemon Center ever since. As you know, Pokemon that evolve through a bond with their trainer are heavily influenced by the emotional state of their trainers, Inko stated. "The reason your Lucario is lashing out of control is because you can't." "Pardon?" Izuku asked in confusion. "During the war, you were powerful, correct?" she suddenly asked. "Yes. The biggest driving force to fight is anger. And now your anger has nowhere to go." Izuku's hands clenched into fists. "So peace was never an option for me. You just need to find an outlet for your anger. It's that easy." Izuku raised an eyebrow. "It won't be. You need to be actually letting out your anger," she stated. "Putting yourself through harsh training or challenging fights won't change anything unless you're actually letting it out." Izuku just rubbed his forehead in frustration. "Don't forget to clear things up with your Lucario. Both of you need to understand your situation." Izuku nodded. "How did it go?" Itsuka asked as Izuku entered the hotel room. "Weird, really." "Why?" "She looked in exactly like my mother, appearance, voice, name, everything. Maybe she's her counterpart here," Itsuka suggested. "It's a completely different world after all. We could have our own counterparts here too," Itsuka said before realizing something. "What if we have counterparts of the opposite gender?" Izuku cringed. "I'm not ready to see myself like that." "But Kogu can finally love himself," Itsuka cackled. "Where did that come from?" Izuku asked with an amused smile. Didn't like him ever since the first year sports festival, Itsuka grumbled. But enough of that. What should we do today? It would be a waste to leave Mauville already. Didn't you say you wanted to go see the motorbikes? Hell yeah. Itsuka cheered as she grabbed a cap. Let's stop by the Pokemon Center first to pick everyone up. Itsuka nodded. I can't believe a day of training with your Pokemon sent my whole team to the Pokemon Center. They lacked a good foundation, Izuka mentioned as they got on the elevator. Their stats are not set in stone after all. Wild Pokemon don't get the chance to do exercises after all. Is that why most of your Pokemon aren't even with you? Itsuka asked. Yeah, Grovyle is training since he can't handle the output of his moves. Kind of like my first year at UA. Izuka chuckled at the memory. He wanted to get it together before joining me again. Your Deflosian. Well, he wasn't exactly in it for the journey. He just wanted to be free from the rehab center. And now he has a home to protect. Okay, I'm assuming we're in the middle of your Lucario's character development. No, I bet you 10k credits. Itsuka smirked. Seriously? Izuka smiled. It's all I got. Deal. Sure. Izuka shrugged as they got out the elevator. After a short walk, they arrived at the Pokemon Center, where Izuka's Chansey came out with their Pokeballs. Izuku raised an eyebrow. Huh? She's been an amazing help here, a nurse said as she walked by. While even your Pokemon can't sit still, Itsuka smiled at Izuku. Izuku just gave her a flat look. What exactly are we dealing here? King asked as a whole binder was placed on his desk. You had this guy's file sealed off, the woman in front of him just huffed. He was nothing more than an ambitious man that didn't know his limit. He wanted to prove himself, so I gave him the chance. She crossed her arms. He's the one that chose his mission. Well, he's causing problems, so we need everything on him. You already have everything I have on this guy. I only had his file sealed since he was technically promoted to a knight, Queen replied. Are you even sure it's this guy? Did you see him? No, but traces of his DNA were found at the scene of the attacks. Queen pinched her forehead. Then I don't know SHD. You called me all the way here for nothing when you could have asked over the phone. She stood up in annoyance and grabbed the back of the seat before tossing it across the room. Do you know how far it is to travel from Kanto? King had nothing to say. 25 million credits. Izuku exclaimed when he saw the price tag on the cheapest motorbike for sale. Without insurance? To be fair, insurance won't be a very good business in this world, Itsuka commented, not reacting at all at the prices she had already seen before. Repair shops must be thriving here at that moment. Izuku realized that he didn't have any form of insurance in this world at all. None to himself, his property, and even his Pokemon. This world has its downsides too, huh? Hey, would you two like to participate in a contest to win a free motorbike? Itsuka immediately perked up. Where? A middle-aged man gestured to a corner where a Mach-Hop was. All you have to is beat this Mach-Hop in arm wrestling. Itsuka's head snapped towards Izuku immediately. Do it. Katsuki moved his arm around, testing its condition. Baku bro. You took your cast off, Ijiro said as he entered the room. Yeah, Katsuki shortly replied before heading out the room and made his way to the hospital's open field where his Pokemon were waiting for him. I hope all of you kept with your training while I was in there, Katsuki said as his Pokemon noticed him. His Arcanine looked determined as ever, while his Typhlosion barely reacted. His Houndoom just nodded, and his most recent capture, a fletchling that was perched on Houndoom's back, nodded along. We have a lot of catching up to do, so we're going to get very busy, Katsuki announced while Ijiro just smiled in the background before walking away. Izuku's hand slammed the matchup's hand onto the table for the 7th time. Best out of 21, the shopkeeper yelled, still not accepting his loss. You said if we win, we get the bike. Itsuka started to get irritated. We've won 7 times already. Izuku had to hold her back from strangling the shopkeeper. That's a 30 million credit bike, the shopkeeper yelled. Then you shouldn't have offered it as a prize if you weren't going to give it. Itsuka struggled. Izuku sighed. Itsuka adored 2 things in any world: martial arts and motorbikes. Getting in the way of either one is a surefire way of getting punched in the face by her. What's going on here? A woman with bluish-green hair that was obviously dyed yelled as she arrived. Although the police uniform and hair color should be an obvious distinction of who she was, Izuku had to make sure. Officer Jenny. Yes. I'm the Officer Ginny of this area, Marilyn. So tell me what's going on. Marilyn, Izuka muttered in confusion. We won, but he refused to give us our prize. Itsuka yelled. Izuka sighed again when the situation got even bigger. Officer Ginny began investigating by taking statements from the crowd and checking the security cameras. Izuku also had to beat the Macop in another arm wrestling match. By the end of everything, Itsuka was now pushing their brand-new motorbike to the nearest gas station. BSTRD didn't even fill it up with gas, Itsuka grumbled. Well, he didn't mention anything about gas, Izuka said. He already lost a bike worth $1 million. That was his fault, Itsuka replied. I didn't expect a bike to run on gas, though. You'd think they'd make it run on just electricity, Izuka commented. Itsuka shrugged. Are you sure you don't want this? Itsuka glanced at the motorbike. Izuka shook his head. It's all yours. Yay! Itsuka hugged the bike. What is it called? In this world, PCAM 291. But it is very similar to the R-Series pedigree in our world, Itsuka explained. Probably different materials, too. I wonder if I can get a muscle car in this world. Itsuka gained a flat look, like the Chevrolet Camaro modeled by All Might. Izuku looked away. No, yes, he looked down in defeat. Itsuka shook her head with a fond smile. When's your next appointment? In a week. I'll just teleport back here with Gardevoir. That Pokemon suddenly made a quick recovery. How? Izuku just smiled. It had only been a short time, but she had never thought things would change this much. Her lonely days in Grey Room was replaced with lively days where she's never alone. The Chanseys treated her like a sister, encouraging her to join their group whenever she teleports back to the ranch. The two new additions, Lopunny and Sylveon, oddly treated her like a rival, but more out of competitiveness and no hostility at all. They didn't try to challenge her in any form of battles, though everyone welcomed her like family. They're a rowdy bunch, but they show they care. Everyone has a past, but they help each other move forward. This family grows fast, but nobody is left behind. I feel so alive, Itsuka exclaimed as she drove on the bike. I never thought I'd be able to do this. Eyes on the road, please, Izuku yelled. They were currently heading to Verdanturf Town. At the pace they were going, they should reach the town just before sunset. What are your plans for the next town? Itsuka asked. Training. Seriously, there wasn't exactly much in Verdanturf in the game. Maybe we could look around, Itsuka suggested. You never what could have been left out. All right, Izuku agreed. After a couple of hours, they arrived at the town's entrance. It was peaceful with most of the people coming in and out were supply trucks or carts. Itsuka pressed a button on the motorcycle, and then it shrunk to the size of a pokeball. I always wondered how the player character pulled out a bike. I was focused on analyzing the Pokemon. Figures, Itsuka sighed. You do you have with you today? One of the Chanseys, Lucario, Atlas, Gardevoir, and Grovyle, Izuku listed. Quite the lineup, Itsuka commented. Planning something big. Izuku shook his head. Grovyle wanted to see if he can handle the output of his moves, so I had him sent over. I find it odd that one of your Pokemon developed a similar problem to you in the past, Itsuka mentioned. At some point, you might replace Ash and Brendan as the main protagonist. You do realize I'm trying my best to stay away from the main story. That statement never worked out in any Ice-Sky-related story I've seen. Whatever, Izuku and Itsuka checked into a hotel before heading back down to go about the rest of their day. Itsuka wanted to check the market to get some supplies, while Izuku went out to the forest to test things out with Grovyle. You ready? Izuku called out his Pokemon. Grovyle nodded. All right. First, let's test your basic stats. Izuku turned to Lucario. You'll be chasing Lucario. Both Pokemon nodded. Begin. Lucario and Grovyle shot towards the forest at an amazing speed. Without using any moves, Izuku could barely track their movements in the forest. Lucario was faster than Grovyle, with the Aura Pokemon being able to put so much more force behind his every step. But Grovyle's maneuverability was superior. Every turn, Grovyle inched closer to Lucario until he finally managed to tag him on the back. Now, let's test your firepower. Grovyle nodded. He activated Leaf Blade and easily sliced through a tree. Grovyle turned to Izuku, who just nodded in response. Atlas stomped forward with a determined look on his face. Show us the move you did last time. Grovyle turned to face Atlas. Green energy began to flow around him, and then he charged towards Atlas. The veteran's arm began to glow as Grovyle charged. Atlas halted Grovyle's attack, causing the whirlwind of power to explode everywhere. Grovyle was flung back. Izuku noticed the strain the attack left on Grovyle as he tried to get back up, but he could still move. If he would compare it to something, it's similar to when he would use a slightly higher percentage of One for All. You've worked strong. Izuku patted him on the shoulder. Let's get some more training done, then head back. All his Pokemon responded in agreement. Mari finally got a break from all the work that had piled while she was gone from the office. It was a rough week, but she had settled everything. She had been getting several updates from her sister, telling her all about the recent developments in their journey. She also saw Izuku on the news recently, which was a bit of a shock. He really likes getting into trouble. There really wasn't much she could other than hope he was okay. Breakfast became quite the ordeal. Alex and Itsuka had to order a large portion of takeout since they lacked time to cook anything decent for their Pokemon. Any plans today? Itsuka asked as she took a bite of her sandwich. Not really, Izuku replied. Training could get destructive here, so it's no longer an option. There isn't a dedicated battlefield here either for battles, Itsuka mentioned. It's just a normal town. There's a lake nearby, so I might check it out. I'll join you, Itsuka said. Once they finished breakfast and rested for a while, Izuku recalled all his Pokemon to head to the lake. It will probably be their last stop before heading to the next town. When they arrived at the lake, they had been expecting a peaceful sight. Instead, they found trainers in a fight with wild Pokemon. Are they trying to catch them? Itsuka whispered. The wild Pokemon in question was a Corphish, while the trainers were a group of 3 young kids. All 3 of them seemed to be in the battle, with each of them having one Pokemon out against the single Corphish. Should we do something? It depends if they're trying to catch it or just bullying it, Izuku replied. Izuku's thoughts leaned to the former, since the lake was just behind the Corphish. If it was getting bullied, there was nothing stopping it from just jumping into the water to escape. Additionally, the wild Pokemon seemed to be winning. I can't believe this is going to be the most interesting thing I'll see here, Itsuka muttered. Not every place we go to will have something exciting going on. Itsuka sighed. Let's go. As Itsuka was walking away, Izuku glanced back at the children who had eventually succeeded in catching the Pokemon. As they began cheering and celebrating, he couldn't help but give a small smile. Pokemon was a game you mostly played by yourself, but with every Pokemon you caught, you made a friend along the way. Are you ready to head out? Itsuka asked as Izuku was looking out the window. Is something wrong? Izuku shook his head. No, but I feel like I'm missing something. Izuku looked over Verdanturf Town with a curious look. Within the game, the town barely had 10 buildings, but here, Izuku could barely see the edge of the town. Hundreds of people passed by the streets every day, ignorant of the disasters lurking around them. I know that look. Itsuka approached him. Huh? Izuku turned to her in confusion. We know what's going to happen. You're thinking of interfering. Izuku shook his head. There are already 2 outcomes for this world, and both end with it being saved. There are 2 protagonists here to save it. There's no need for me. You never know. Itsuka placed a hand on his shoulder. The world always needs heroes. Izuku chuckled. I wonder if this is how All Might felt when he retired. Itsuka shrugged. I think it's more relaxing for him. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on their door. Did you order room service? Izuku asked Itsuka. She shook her head. I'm not fond of company in our hotel rooms recently. Izuku opened the door and was shocked to see a familiar face. Standing outside the door was a very tall man with green and yellow hair. He was wearing a white suit and had glasses. I had hoped to not see you again so soon, Midoriya. Sir Night Eye, Izuku muttered. It's just Mirai Sasaki now, Night Eye stated. How did Mirai smiled? Come with me, Midoriya. I need to show you something. Izuku turned to Itsuka. Go ahead. I'll wait here. Izuku followed Mirai to the elevator. I woke up here after dying during the raid. Mirai broke the silence. Then there are others? Izuku asked. Yes. Mirai nodded as they stepped out of the elevator. They began walking through town with Mirai leading the way. Izuka noticed that he seemed familiar with the town, but just silently followed. When I woke up here, it took a lot of effort to get adjusted, Mirai mentioned. But ultimately, I felt relieved to no longer be haunted with the knowledge of the future. Did you not play Pokemon? Izuku asked. Mirai shook his head. I knew of its existence, but I was never a fan. How long have you been here? A few years, Mirai answered. It was just around the end of the war. They arrived at the edge of the town. Izuku saw a large house with a giant front yard lined by a wooden fence. At the entrance of the house, Izuku saw two elderly people coming out. They felt very familiar to the point that he felt a sense of longing. He did recognize the elderly woman, though. Despite her hair being gray and had some wrinkles on her face, Nana looked the same. It's nice to finally meet you, Izuku, Nana spoke. I'm sad to find out you arrived here first instead of Toshi or Sorahiko. Izuku's eyes widened. Nana, right you are, Nana smiled. Izuku turned to the elderly man that was a full foot shorter than Nana. Then, I'm in, the elderly man revealed. I was younger than Nana when I passed on one for all to her. What about the others? In shook his head. As far as I know, this universe hopping started with me. Any others? Izuku asked. Nana invited him to sit on their porch. I arrived here alone, Nana answered. It was the same for me, In answered. It even took a while for me to even find out Nana arrived. I got lucky and woke up here Verdanturf where they were residing. Mirai spoke up. Oh, is that why you seem familiar with the place? Mirai nodded. He's more than just familiar, Nana smirked. He's the mayor. I see. Izuku nodded in approval. Why don't you tell us about what happened on the other side? Nana asked. We're not fully connected to the vestiges, so we only know who you are, but nothing about what happened. Izuku smiled as he began telling everything from the beginning. How he met All Might, how he began training, his life in UA, and many more. His story was only interrupted when someone called out from inside the house. Can we come out now? A young woman came out of the house along with a bunch of children. The children ran to Nana and Anne, hugging them. These are my grandchildren, Anne revealed. Izuku turned to Nana. I never remarried here. She shook her head. Do you mind introducing me, Grandpa? The young woman spoke. It's rare to see an actual man around. Izuku glanced at Mirai. She doesn't like me dating her aunt, Mirai whispered. Izuku, this is my eldest granddaughter, Emily, and introduced the young woman. Hello, Izuku bowed. But what a boring reaction. Emily lost interest and walked back inside their house. Izuku just stood there in confusion. Sorry about her, and spoke. It's all right, Izuku replied. I don't really know how to take all of this in. Izuku looked around. I'm happy that you all got to live the life you didn't get back home. But it feels shallow without everyone else, Nana finished. It does, Izuku agreed. King stared at the rotting corpse in front of him. The man's name was Oliver Brown, the assassin that had supposedly his demise during the war. The corpse is around a week old, Bishop King's medical expert spoke. All visible proof says that this person wasn't in any shape to even move, let alone go against someone like Mr. Midoriya's group in combat. What the hell is going on then? King asked in annoyance. It seems whoever is behind this has been doing experiments on Oliver Brown before throwing him away. Bishop showed the photographs he took of the Brown's arm. These scars were made by syringes. A lot of them. What are we dealing with then? King asked. This is the second culprit we found dead. I have suspicions, but I'll need time to confirm it. Say it, King demanded. Bishop nodded. I believe an unethical experiment involving using human consciousness being implanted on Pokemon is happening, Bishop stated. That's a strangely specific suspicion. I briefly came upon that research in the past, but I ignored it for numerous reasons. Then there's a chance we're dealing with Pokemon with the consciousness of vengeful humans, King stated, and Bishop nodded. Great, at this point, you're this world's protagonist now. Itsuka commented as Izuku told her about everything that happened. I don't want to be the protagonist of a world filled with godlike creatures without one for all. Fair, but I could think of a few Pokemon you could punch, Itsuka said. Like the birds. I don't plan on punching said godlike beings too. Both of them reached the exit of the town and was heading to the mountains to go through the tunnel system to reach Lava Ridge. Anything else happened? That was it? I plan on researching about Nana in this world. Apparently, she became pretty famous as a trainer. Itsuka shrugged. She's All Might's MS-R for a reason. Tell me about it. Night Eye mentioned her being involved with stopping the war. Sounds like something a previous wielder of One for All would do. They continued on their way. When they reached the entrance of the tunnels, Izuka noticed a lot of trainers camping outside. The atmosphere seemed tense, but Izuku and Itsuka continued forward. A moment later, they spotted more trainers that looked haggard and covered in dirt. What's going on? Itsuka whispered. Maybe a wild Pokemon is causing trouble, Izuku replied. It wasn't a rare occurrence in this world. A lot of wild Pokemon have been known to set up territories in the wild. Most of those tend to be alphas that intend on setting up a nest. If it's a fighting type, I want to catch it, Itsuka stated. Well, you're in luck, huh? Itsuka raised an eyebrow as Izuku stared ahead. Itsuka turned to find an Annihilape stomping toward them. The trainers around them immediately began running away as the Pokemon pounded on its CHSD, CRP. No point in holding back now. Izuka called out Lucario, while Itsuka called out her Hitmonchan. The Annihilape rushed to attack. This is a really bad matchup, but let's give it our all. Bullet Punch. Metal Dash. Izuku was interrupted by Gardevoir forcibly coming out of her Pokeball and using Psychic to crush the Annihilape under its pressure. I feel redundant, Itsuka muttered. I feel stupid, Izuku added. Gardevoir walked past the Annihilape that was struggling on the ground and looked through a crack on the wall. She remained there for a while, so Izuku approached her while Itsuka kept an eye on the Annihilape. What's wrong? Izuka got closer and heard sobbing. He looked through the crack and found a little girl that was hiding. The hell? Izuka didn't know how to feel about this. He had brought the little girl to the hospital in Verdanturf Town and informed Mirai about it. If I had a nickel for every time you rescued a lost little girl after talking to me, I'd have two, Mirai spoke. It's not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Izuka watched as the nurse looked over the little girl. Did they find her parents? The little girl had black hair and had tan skin. She was wearing rag-like clothes and was barefoot. Mirai shook her head. They ran her picture through the database, but nothing came up. It's likely that she's from a tribe. Tribe? Like the Draconids. I don't know who those are, but there are a lot of tribes here in Hoenn, Mirai stated. They'll try asking her to find out which. Wouldn't it be the tribes near here? Izuku suggested. There are no tribes in this area, Mirai answered. It's also not rare for the citizens of these tribes to be kidnapped for information. How long till the investigation is finished? I'm not sure, Mirai answered. The investigators will be coming from Lavaridge, so I'm not well informed. And her? They'll keep an eye on her here, Mirai stated. Izuka nodded. I need to go back now. I left Itsuka there, so she could catch the Annihilape. Mirai was interrupted by the little girl running out of the room and hugging Izuka's leg. Well, isn't this another familiar sight? Momo looked at herself in the mirror, getting a good look of her shorter hair. It felt like she lost her signature look with her down now, but she'll get used to it eventually, like how she happily got used to wearing more clothes now. Everything okay? Kyoka asked as she entered the room with Mina. Yes, Momo nodded. Your Pokemon has been worried about you, Kyoka mentioned. You look great, Yamamo. Want to do contests with me? Mina asked excitedly. I don't think I'll do well in those, Momo replied. Let's go see them. They came out to the open field behind the Pokemon Center where all their Pokemon were waiting for them. Momo's Pokemon rushed towards her, glad to see their trainer had recovered. Are you going to continue the conference? Kyoka asked. Yes. I can't be left behind now, can I? Momo replied as she petted her Aaron. I'll probably need to hold back on getting involved on the story. Should we just give them an anonymous tip? Kyoka suggested. Let's inform them of the existence of the evil organizations. Momo nodded. Where's Zinnia? She looked around. She left, Mina answered. She said she had some business to take care of. That's ominous, Kyoka commented. Should we look for her? It's fine, Momo replied. Let's focus on gathering out badges, right? Mina exclaimed. This journey will never be boring with you, Itsuka commented as she stared at Izuku carrying the little girl. Izuku just sighed. What happened here? Izuku looked around the cave and noticed the concerning amount of police, investigators, and gym trainers. Itsuka's expression turned dark. I don't think it's safe for her to hear this, Izuka nodded and handed the little girl to Gardevoir, who she seemed to like. Once Gardevoir got far enough, Izuku turned back to Itsuka. Smugglers kidnapped the little girl and were meeting the buyer here, Itsuka revealed. Did they get arrested? Izuku asked. Itsuka shook her head. There's nobody to arrest anymore. They were going to sell other Pokemon as well, but had a big problem. The Annihilape was protecting her. Not exactly, but it did stop the smuggling. Did you catch it? Izuku asked. Thankfully, Itsuka released a very tired sigh. All my Pokemon need a Pokemon Center. Urgently. She shook her head. We ganged up on it so nobody got seriously injured. Then let's get out of here, Izuka said as he called over Gardevoir so they could leave. Izuka covered the little girl's eyes as they passed by the scene and continued through the tunnel. With Gardevoir and Lucario by their side as they walked, none of the wild Pokemon went near them. You're not going to catch anything? Itsuka asked as they passed by. Numerous wild Pokemon. I already have a streak of not catching Pokemon by battling. There's no need to start now, Izuku replied. Did you not fight the Ninetales? I did. I didn't catch it during that time, though, Izuku answered. It willingly joined us a while later. Itsuka gave him a flat look. After a couple of hours, they decided to take a rest and have lunch. Izuka's whole team was out along with Itsuka's, except her newly caught Annihilape that was still unconscious. After their short conversation, they continued eating. Izuka was concerned about the little girl, who was just silently eating. They didn't even know her name, since she doesn't talk. Why did they allow her to go with you? Itsuka asked. She didn't want to stay there, so they allowed it as long as give her proper meals and medicine, Izuku explained. It feels irresponsible, but they deemed it safe since I had powerful Pokemon. Yeah, that's not fair, Itsuka commented. The only Pokemon you actually trained is Lucario and Grovyle. Well, they're the only Pokemon that joined me with the thought of winning the league, Izuka mentioned. I don't even have a full team yet. You already a pretty strong one, Izuka said. He didn't know a lot about Annihilape, but Izuka knew it's a powerful Pokemon. Its typing alone would be strong to deal with. I'll make sure to catch even stronger Pokemon to beat you, Itsuka declared. Atlas passed the empty plates to Izuku before sitting back down. You better not use him in the tournament, Itsuka pointed out. Woohoo! Hot springs! Itsuka exclaimed. Took you long enough? Izuka turned to find Mai walking towards them. How have you been? Izuku asked. Good. Just got my badge, Mai replied. Nadia and Ellie are back at the hotel. We kind of went overboard on the hot springs last night. We'll drop by then, Izuka smiled. How was your gym battle? Pretty decent. Flannery's strong, but she had a lot of holes in her strategy, Mai answered. It's understandable, since it's her first year as the official gym leader. They began exploring the town with Mai guiding them, since she's been here more than once. The houses looked traditional Japanese houses with the sliding doors. They also a lot of people wearing kimonos. At some point, they visited a clothes shop and bought kimonos for Itsuka, Mai, and the little girl. They couldn't get one for Izuku, since they didn't have one for someone his size. By the way, Mai spoke. Who's the kid? We actually don't know her name, Itsuka responded. We rescued her from smuggling incident at the tunnels. That's horrible, Mai looked at the little girl in concern. We're waiting for the investigation to finish to get more details, Izuka mentioned. Until then, she's with us. Might as well give her a nickname, Mai stated. What about Lily? Izuka turned to the little girl, but she didn't respond. I guess that'll work for now. Let's give Lily a good time, Itsuka exclaimed. For next few hours, the group visited several shops from clothes, food, and even souvenirs. A while later, Izuka noticed that Lily had fallen asleep in his arms. Let's go to the hotel, Izuka stated. Sure thing. Mai began leading the way to the hotel they were staying at. When they arrived at the hotel, Itsuka went to the receptionist to get them a room, while Izuka took a seat in the lobby. Izuku, Nadia called out to them as she approached them with Ellie. It's been a while, Izuka smiled. Oh, who's that? Ellie noticed Lily sleeping in Izuka's arms. We call her Lily, Izuku answered. She was rescued from smugglers. Oh, Arceus. I hope she's okay, Nadia said in concern. She doesn't talk, Mai whispered. Then we'll do everything we can to help her get better, Nadia promised. That's good to hear. 2 weeks. Izuka had to wait 2 weeks for his gym battle. Just how many people are challenging this gym? It's more like Flannery doesn't have enough competent Pokemon for each skill level, I pointed out. It's not easy to use other people's Pokemon after all. People are also crowding to challenge a new gym leader for an easy win, Nadia added. That's not very nice, Ellie commented. Not everyone is a saint, Ellie, Nadia stated. Some are also desperate. By the way, congratulations, Mai said to Izuku, making him confused. For what? You didn't know. Check your trainer profile, Mai said. Izuku took out his phone and checked. Everything was pretty much the same until he reached the current team he was carrying. Lucario had been promoted to 5 stars, jumping from 3 stars. Why? Really? Itsuka gave him a raised eyebrow. UF Mega Evolve in live television, and you ask why. Mega Evolve, Nadia asked. Is that what his Lucario did? Izuku shrugged. I might as well fill all of you in. There's a phenomenon called Mega Evolution, Izuku began. Usually, you would need something like this. Izuku showed them his 2 Mega Stones. These act as a medium for the Mega Evolution, but rarely you can do it without it. Does your Lucario have one? Mai asked. Izuku shook his head. He doesn't. The main character Pokemon doesn't need one, Itsuka said sagely. Anyway, it's a temporary evolution that gives a Pokemon a huge power-up, but it's also very taxing for both the Pokemon and the trainer. There's also a huge risk of the Pokemon going out of control. Which of my Pokemon can Mega Evolve? Mai asked excitedly. Logically, all final stage evolutions could Mega Evolve, but from what we've seen, your Swampert, Kangaskhan, and Maneric should be able to, Izuku answered. I'm becoming an archaeologist, Mai declared. Archaeologist, Nadia corrected. You'll need to find the stones specific to your Pokemon, Izuku mentioned. These ones are for a Charizard and Gardevoir. Itsuka snapped to Izuku. You've got to be kidding me, she grumbled. We'll need to face a Mega Lucario and Gardevoir at the tournament. Well, aren't you Arceus's favorite, Nadia commented, making them laugh, except for Lily, who was just silently eating pudding. Ah, found you. Everyone turned to the source of the shout and found Flannery. She ran up to them, panting a bit when she stopped. You're Izuku Midoriya, right? Yes, Izuku nodded. I need a favor. Flannery clasped her hands together. Let me copy Ignite. Pardon? Typhlosion knew his life had taken for a weird but on the right path kind of turn, but he was expecting to be strapped to some kind of machine that looks like it would explode at any time. Sorry about this. It's kind of old, the woman called Flannery spoke to his trainer. It's all right, Typhlosion isn't afraid of this, his trainer replied. Afraid? No. Irritated. Very much. Apparently, this woman had begged to be able to copy his move, Ignite. He didn't particularly care about it since he knew he was the only one that could fully use it to its potential. At best, these mediocre bunch would just blow up. It's starting, Flannery stated. Finally, the machine hummed for a moment, and Typhlosion felt a tingling sensation in his head. It only lasted for a few seconds, then a CD popped out of the machine. Once the gadgets were taken off him, Typhlosion did a few stretches before turning to his trainer with a bored expression. Want to do some training? His trainer offered. Ho ho ho. It's been a while since I've seen such a fine Typhlosion. Demon right he was. He glanced at the old man approaching them. You must be Mr. Moore. His trainer shook the old man's hand. Yes, I am. Thank you for doing this for my granddaughter, Moore stated. She really needed something to give her an edge. It's no problem, but I don't really know how the move would translate for other Pokemon. They should be able to replicate the move by using Fire-type energy, Flannery responded. It'll be a challenge to MSTR, but we'll figure it out. What about we more your gym challenge forward? Moore suggested. Won't that be unfair to the others who reserved first? His trainer replied. Just accept. That's only if you were battling Flannery, the old man said. It'll be a good last bout for my partner, Ty. All right, Mr. Moore. Finally. Quite the crowd, Itsuka commented as Izuku entered the field. There's a rumor going around that this was the retirement battle of Moore's team, Mai mentioned. They had found out last night that Izuku's gym battle had been moved forward, but Flannery won't be his opponent. It didn't take long for the news to spread and resulted in the arena being full. Will that barrier be enough? Itsuka whispered. Izuku's Pokemon could get really fired up sometimes. You don't need to worry, Nadia pointed to a bunch of Psychic-type Pokemon being called out from their Pokeballs. I think they're making preparations too. The match will be a 3 versus 3 single battle between the gym leader, Moore, and the challenger, Izuku Midoriya. Flannery announced. The challenger will be allowed 2 substitutions, and the victor will be decided when one side no longer has any Pokemon able to battle. This is going to be intense, I muttered. The gym leader will be calling out their Pokemon first, Flannery stated. Magcargo, Grovyle. It got hot. That was an understatement, as Izuku felt the temperature in the field increase. It was probably a stupid decision to pick Grovyle, but Izuku planned on giving this battle to his core team. Begin. Quick attack. Grovyle blasted forward, shrouded in a white cloak of energy. Incinerate. Moore called out. Rock Tomb. Grovyle swung upward, creating a pillar of earth that shot out from the ground and blocked the flames. Izuku was glad he gave his team some TMS a while back. The stone pillar began to crack from the force of the flames, but it was still going to provide Grovyle the opportunity he needed. Use Slam on the pillar. The pillar shattered, sending scorched rocks toward Magcargo. Use Ember and shoot them down. The rocks were shot down with a few embers shooting toward Grovyle. The gecko avoided everything and charged towards Magcargo. Leaf Blade. Reduce its mobility with Lava Plume. Magcargo began spewing lava around the field, making Grovyle stop in his tracks and avoid the incoming blobs of lava. The entire field was slowly being covered in lava, making it harder for Grovyle to maneuver with his speed. This will be a problem for the others if this continues, Izuku muttered. We need to stop it, Grovyle. 2 leaf blades activated, then Grovyle charged. Grass-type energy began swirling around him as he charged, digging into the ground and kicking up some of the lava away. They're preparing a big attack. Match it with Overheat. Magcargo began charging up as Grovyle charged. Grovyle increased his speed thanks to the leaf blades keeping him balanced, causing Magcargo to not have a lot of time to charge their attack. Grovyle was only a meter away when Magcargo was forced to unleash their attack, and then Grovyle raised one leaf blade and lowered the other, causing him to take a sharp turn and avoided the overheat. What? Moore's eyes widened in shock. We call this Leaf Jet? Izuku exclaimed. Grovyle twisted his leaf blades again and increased the output of grass-type energy, propelling him, rocketing him towards Magcargo. Grovyle crashed into Magcargo, sending the fire-type tumbling across the field. Despite taking a direct hit, Magcargo still got back up and ready to fight. An impressive move, but not enough to take down Magcargo. Lava Plume. Stop it, Izuku ordered, and Grovyle activated Leaf Jet once again. Grovyle crashed into Magcargo again, but he flinched pain when he landed on lava. Recover. Moore called out, and Magcargo practically recovered all the damage it took from Grovyle. Sunny day. Izuku gritted his teeth as the odds kept stacking against him. You're an amazing trainer, boy. The strength of your Pokemon is baffling, but your biggest flaw is fighting in the background, Moore mentioned. Incinerate. Stone Edge. Grovyle created another pillar to block the flames, but this time it didn't hold out and was destroyed by the force of Magcargo's attack. You made your Pokemon strong. Fought them to fight, Moore stated. Then make use of that and believe in them. Izuku's eyes widened in realization. What's he talking about? Mai asked. Izuku's not used to telling people what to do as he just watches, Itsuka stated. He got used to fighting in the front line and just getting support. This feels like making people fight his battles for him. I don't get it, Mai said. What she means is that Izuku trains his Pokemon with the idea that he will be fighting with them directly, not just giving them orders, Nadia helped explain. So, what Izuku needs to is trust them and just watch. All right, Grovyle. Show them what you can do. His trainer called out. Grovyle nodded and turned to the field. Puddles of lava were everywhere, making it strong to maneuver at high speeds. But Grovyle didn't just train to run in a flat field. He didn't need to touch the ground. Ground-type energy gathered in his claws. Then he unleashed everything into the floor. Pillars of stone shot out everywhere, creating a stone forest. A cloak of white energy shrouded Grovyle as he activated Quick Attack and began bouncing between pillars at an amazing speed. Grovyle's using the pillars as platforms. Take them down with Rock Throw. More ordered. Magcargo shot rocks towards the pillars, but Grovyle tore through a few of them with Leaf Blade and also landed a direct hit on Magcargo. Next, Grovyle bounced back to land a slam and followed up with a Quick Attack. Magcargo began to get overwhelmed with the speed of Grovyle's attacks. Keep it away with Incinerate. In response, Grovyle leaped high into the air where Incinerate's range could reach. Now use Overheat. Grovyle activated Leaf Jet. Magcargo shot up. Then Grovyle used his Leaf Blades like gliders to maneuver in the air with the Grass-type energy, providing propulsion to increase his speed. Once he neared the ground, Grovyle deactivated Leaf Jet and twisted in the air to go around the Overheat and land the Leaf Blade on Magcargo. The Overheat died down and Magcargo fell to the ground. Magcargo is unable to continue. Grovyle is the winner. You did great, buddy, Izuka said as he returned Grovyle to his Pokeball. It's your turn. Izuka tossed the Pokeball and released Lucario. I won't be much of traditional Fire-type specialist if I didn't have one of these. Moore threw a Great Ball and released an Arcanine. True to the title of its species, Arcanine looked legendary. Moore's Arcanine was a true beast with its large frame and fierce eyes. Streaks of silver fur were mixed in its mane, symbolizing its age and experience. Lucario, the Pokemon, turned to Izuku. I've trained you to the best of my ability, and I believe in you. Show them how strong you are now. Lucario nodded and faced Arcanine with a determined look. I know type advantages aren't everything, but he's dealing with an Elite Four level trainer, Mai commented. Is he crazy? It's fine. He has the power of friendship on his side. Itsuko waved off Mai's worries. Mai gave her a strange look. Lucario does evolve through a bond with their trainer, so it's not far off, Nadia mentioned. Additionally, Izuka mentioned Mega Evolution revolves around that bond. The perfect Pokemon for Izuku, Itsuka said proudly, with Lily nodding in agreement in her lap. Ellie hummed for a moment. He reminds me more of a Dragonite. Lily nodded in agreement again. Lucario faced his foe with the determination to achieve victory. Begin. Lucario slammed his paws together, forming gauntlets using his aura. Extreme speed. Arcanine turned into a blur. The beast was fast, but so was Grovyle. So was Typhlosion. So was Lucario himself. And yet his trainer could face them all. The same man trained him well. Lucario slammed his paw onto the ground, unleashing a wave of aura across the field. Lucario tracked the speedster with his aura, waiting for the right opportunity to strike. Use Fire Fang. Arcanine rushed to bite his soldier, but Lucario leaned away and struck Arcanine with a Force Palm. Instead of the regular brownish-orange color of fighting-type energy, a blue-colored blast erupted from the impact. Arcanine staggered for a bit before charging again. It reached Lucario, making Lucario block with his gauntlet this time. Flames erupted from Arcanine's fangs, but failed to pierce through Lucario's gauntlets. And then Lucario slammed a Meteor Mash directly to Arcanine's head, causing the fiery dog to become disoriented. When did he learn Meteor Mash? Izuku wondered as he watched Lucario's battle. Everything seemed to be going well until Arcanine's fur flared up as it unleashed a blast burn towards Lucario. Izuku wanted to order him to dodge, but held it in since he trusted his Pokemon. Instead of dodging, Lucario took a stance, preparing a punch. When the blast burn was close enough, Lucario activated Force Palm, scattering the flames on impact. That move seemed to have angered Arcanine as it charged with renewed vigor. Go ahead and use Raging Fury. A fiery aura shrouded Arcanine as its speed increased even more. Lucario may have been able to keep track of Arcanine, but he was getting overwhelmed by its speed. Lucario barely managed to block Arcanine's attacks, and it didn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. Lucario tried to move, but his mobility was limited due to the leftover lava during the previous battle. This made the direction of his moves predictable, giving Arcanine an edge and intercepting every move Lucario made. Arcanine dashed past Lucario, slashing its claws on his legs as it went through. Lucario fell to his knees and received a flaming tackle from behind, sending him tumbling across the scorching battlefield. Izuku gritted his teeth and clenched his hands. As much as he wanted to intervene, he could feel through their bond that Lucario is far from done, and he believes in his Pokemon. Lucario gritted through the pain and felt the bond between his trainer. It wasn't like the time at the docks, but it was a familiar feeling. Something older, a power that felt both distant and familiar. Lucario stood up and drew on that power. Arcanine leaped and dove towards Lucario, with Fire Fang activated, but he managed to block it once again with his gauntlets. Rio! Lucario howled as a burst of energy blew Arcanine back. Bluish electricity began sparking around Lucario's body as red veins traced his body. They've got to power up, keep your distance, and drag it out. More called out. Let them drain it out. The human wasn't wrong. Lucario could feel his energy being drained faster than he expected, so he moved. He took one heavy step and launched himself at Arcanine, creating a shockwave behind him. Arcanine dashed out of the way, leaving a cloud of dust. Lucario landed on the ground and fired several aura spheres toward Arcanine, but the beast avoided them all. Despite the boost in power and speed, Lucario was still a bit behind Arcanine in terms of speed. Lucario ignored the puddles of lava and focused on attacking, but Arcanine kept its distance at all times, avoiding every attack thrown at it. It didn't take long for Lucario to lose gas and fell to his knees, but he refused to give up and tried to stand once again. That's when he felt a hand on his shoulder. "It's all right, buddy," Izuku spoke. "You did great." Lucario calmed down as the sparks vanished. He was about to fall forward when his trainer caught him. "Take a rest." They watched as Izuku returned Lucario to his Pokeball and walked back to the trainer booth. "DMN experience 1 overpower," Mai commented. "I wonder what his last Pokemon is going to be," Ellie spoke. "Probably his Typhlosion," Itsuka answered. "He had his Heracross sent to his home, so we can expect a mirror matchup." Izuka tossed his Pokeball and released Typhlosion. It's been a while since they last saw the Pokemon, and they did not expect what they saw. Izuka's Typhlosion grew. It was a lot bulkier compared to the last time they saw it, to the point that it puts a lot of fighting types to shame. "The hell has he been feeding that thing?" Mai exclaimed. "That's not F-normal. I have to admit, this is the first time I've seen a Pokemon dedicate that much to its physical foundation," Nadia commented. "Especially one that focuses on special attacks." They turned to Itsuka, who just raised her hands in surrender. "I have no idea why his Typhlosion looks like it's one steroid. He had been waiting for this. The nurse at the island had forbidden him from using his flames due to his injuries, so he had focused physically training himself." "Why?" His trainer was the answer. His trainer humiliated him with his strength. Despite not being a Pokemon, he had bested with him raw strength alone. What's stopping Typhlosion from doing the same? Nothing. He trained and trained until he could lift logs without the use of type energy. Train more until he could throw them like they were nothing. Begin. Extreme speed. The mutt charged at him. Fool. Typhlosion caught the mutt by the neck and slammed it strong into the ground. Arcanine is unable to continue. "Bring me a challenge." Izuka watched as Moore returned his Arcanine. He clipped the Pokeball to his waist and enlarged a very worn-out Pokeball. "It's time," Moore said as he tossed the Pokeball. If Izuka thought it was hot before, it just got worse as Moore's Typhlosion appeared on the field. It wasn't as bulky as Izuka's Typhlosion, but it was still in great shape. It had lines of gray fur throughout its body, signifying its old age. Numerous scars littered its frame, signifying its experience. The most noteworthy scar was a long slash that went from the Typhlosion's left waist to its right shoulder. "Get ready, buddy," Izuka said as his Typhlosion smirked. "Begin," Flannery exclaimed. Then the field lit up in flames as both Typhlosions unleashed their flames. Moore's Typhlosion had a calm red flame, while Izuka's Typhlosion had a raging orange flame. Flamethrower. Both Pokemon unleashed a torrent of flame from their mouths that collided at the center of the field, creating a giant ball of fire at the center of the field. The fireball collapsed, creating a wave of fire that spread through the field. He charged towards his foe. Ignore the flames that passed through his feet. It has been a while since he used his flames, and they felt stronger than ever. An explosion erupted under his feet, driving him forward. Brick break. The elder's paws glowed, aiming a chop at him. Using his explosion, he propelled himself out of the way of the chop that smashed the ground beneath him where it hit. The sheer power of the attack created a blast that blew him back, but he didn't forget to leave a parting gift. An explosion hit the elder right in the face, but If took the hit with no issue. Flamethrower. The torrent of flame was even stronger than before, but it didn't matter when it failed to hit its mark. He used a consecutive blast of explosions himself backwards to avoid the flames. Your Typhlosion hasn't learned flash fire yet, the old human spoke. Was the old man calling him weak? Him. Typhlosion's flames grew fiercer as it stopped and causing the flamethrower hit its target. He took the hit and forcibly absorbed the fire-type energy in the attack. Scion. He roared as the flames on his back grew brighter. A powerful explosion erupted, shooting him to his foe. Focus punch. He fired an explosion upwards, causing the punch to shoot over him as he landed low on the ground. Then he swung an uppercut with an explosion mixed in to the elder's jaw. The older Typhlosion was blown back, but he wasn't finished. He blasted himself back into the air and over the elder. But as he was about to attack, the older Typhlosion twisted in the air and used low kick, resulting in a spinning kick in the air and hitting him on the side, sending him crashing down to the ground. The elder landed with a roll before lunging forward and hitting him right in the face with a thunder punch. He countered with an explosion, but the elder tanked the hit and slammed a brick breakdown on his shoulder. His legs buckled before a shadow claw struck his CHSD and knocking him down. The difference in experience was clear. He lacked a way to deal with an opponent that resisted his attacks. His eyes glanced to the side where he could see his trainer calling out to him. His trainer, a human that defied all odds and always managed to come out on top. If he could keep going, so could he. Typhlosion gritted his teeth and got up. The wound on his CHSD bled, but he won't let that stop him. The elder's paws began to spark as it charged for another thunder punch. His own paws sparked as well, but instead of a thunder punch, an explosion erupted from the clash. A thunderous boom shook the field as the elder Typhlosion was blown back. The elder dug their claws into the ground, hold their ground as they growled at the smokescreen. The sounds of sparks could be heard within, and then a boom. He shot out of the smoke and soared in the air. Flamethrower. The elder fired a torrent of flame, but dove through it, absorbing the fire-type energy within the attack. Once he got close, a spark of orange lightning flashed before another thunderous boom erupted from a powerful explosion. The elder took the hit like a champ, but was still pushed back. Staring at his foe with mad glee, he relished at the overwhelming power coursing through him. Bulldoze. The older Typhlosion charged. The younger slammed his paws on the ground. Another flash of orange lightning followed by a thunderous explosion wrecked the field, interrupting the elder's charge. He grabbed two large pieces of rubble and chucked them at his foe with raw strength alone. The elder easily batted them away, but failed to react to a right hook that sparked with orange lightning before releasing another powerful explosion. We're losing ground. We need to end this quickly, the old human yelled. Put everything in the next attack. Overheat. The elder's calm flames flared up, generating a tremendous amount of power that gathered in its maw. Who was he to back down? The joy from the overwhelming power he was feeling encouraged him to face the challenge head-on. His own flames flared as orange sparks traveled between his fur. The beam of red-hot flames shot towards him. He met the attack with his right arm, sparking violently with orange electricity. The beam unraveled with a flash of lightning shot through it with a powerful explosion erupted, unleashing a thunderous roar as it destroyed the field. The psychic barrier rippled as the shockwave hit. Smoke covered the entire field, but it didn't take long to clear and reveal both Typhlosions. The elder fell to one knee as the younger stood tall, one arm being badly injured. The elder finally collapsed. The gym leader Morse Typhlosion is unable to continue. Flannery announced, "The challenger wins." Thank you for joining us on this journey through What If Quirkless Deku reincarnated in Pokemon World. We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to Dragon Boy for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on archiveofourown.org for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zen and Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section. See you soon in the next video.